we had to get into our regularly scheduled programming with Explain It Like I'm Five.
All right, Explain Like I'm Five. The world of finance is complicated. We're going to break down these really scary, complex sounding terms more simply. What do we have today, Jen?
Yes, you recently made a post on Instagram about tax loss harvesting, something that I personally had never heard of. So your infographic helped me a little bit. I got a pretty good understanding from what you posted, but can you explain it like I'm five?
Oh man, every time you say five, I'm like, this is going to be hard for a 5-year-old who's still like learning numbers, but I'm going to do my best. The reason I posted about this is because a lot of people hear this term tax loss harvesting because it's used in marketing for investments. So you might go to a robo-advisor that says, we do tax loss harvesting, magically creating better returns. Or you might go to, Fidelity reached out to me personally and tried to sell me this thing that says, hey, because of tax loss harvesting, we're going to make you more money. And in my opinion, to start with, like those marketing claims are greatly exaggerated to the point of maybe not being true at all. And so what is tax loss harvesting? Here's the simple explanation. When you buy something, let's say you buy a bar of gold for $1,000, and then let's say it goes up in value to $3,000, and you sell it, you have had a gain of $2,000. That's called a capital gain. Capital is stuff like a bar of gold, and a gain is when that stuff goes up in value. If I buy a bar of gold for $1,000 and sell it for $3,000, I have a capital gain of $2,000. The government taxes you on capital gains. At the end of the year, when you file your taxes, you have to submit a tax form saying all of the gains you've had. If you're literally selling bars of gold like on the black market or something like that, you might need to just like honestly report it. More typically, you have a brokerage account like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab that gives you a tax form reporting how many capital gains you had this year. And so like if I go report I had $2,000 in capital gains, the government's going to tax me at a capital gains tax rate, which is typically 15% for a lot of people. So 15% of $2,000 is what, $300. And so of my $2,000 gain, I have to send $300 to the federal government, and I get to keep the other $1,700, plus of course the principal, that first $1,000 I put in. So I bought a bar of gold for $1,000, sold it for $3,000. After taxes, I walk away with $2,700 because I paid the 15% on just the gain. That's a taxable gain.
Mm-hmm.
A taxable loss is the opposite. So let's say I also bought a bar of silver for $1,000. And let's say in this very hypothetical example, silver went down to 1 cent and now it's only worth 1 cent. I have this gain of $2,000. And if I want to mitigate my tax on that, I could harvest, I'm making the air quotes if you're listening, I could harvest the loss on my silver, which is down about $1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to harvest that, I sell it. So I go sell my silver for a penny. This is not how precious metals go up and down in value, by the way. It's just an example.
Mm-hmm.
I could sell my silver for a penny. Then, in addition to my gain of 2,000, I have a loss of 1,000. Added up, that's a net gain of only 1,000. That means instead of paying $300 in taxes, I would pay only $150 in tax. So basically, by selling the silver, I've locked in that loss, I've harvested the loss, and now I pay less on the gains. That's what tax loss harvesting is. That's the entire thing. It's selling stuff at a loss to mitigate the taxes of your gains. That is what tax loss harvesting is. And all the strategies that are discussed on top of that are basically like, riffing on that. So it's like, okay, if you own 6 stocks and 4 up and 2 are down, you could sell 2 for a minute and then buy them back and then push forward that, that gain for another day or whatever. That's what it is. And so people, there's a little caveat here, which is when you sell, like if I sell my bar of gold for a penny and then I go right back to the market and buy a bar of gold for a penny, the government says, hey, not so fast. We don't want you doing the tax loss harvesting just performatively. We want you to actually sell the thing and stick to it. And so if you buy back the same thing or a sufficiently similar thing, there's like phrasing with the IRS laws that say this, then it doesn't count. It's called a wash sale, which means you basically can't count your loss. And so that's just something to be aware of. And so all the strategies people talk about tax loss harvesting are basically saying, okay, instead of just buying one index fund, you could buy like 100 different stocks and then kind of harvest all the losses every year, thus offsetting some of the gains, thus kicking the can of paying the tax on those gains down the road. But like it comes with a bunch of caveats. It only works if certain things are true. Like you have gains that you need to offset if you're in a high tax bracket and you expect to be in a low tax bracket later. Like there's all these like caveats to it. And so the net result for me is like generally don't worry about it. It's good to know that it exists. And if you do have a large gain, like let's say you sell a house or you sell a bunch of stock and have a huge gain, like you have some company stock and you sell it, and then you also have some like crappy stocks out there at a loss, you might consider selling them this year and buying something else back or waiting the 30 days and buying it back just to mitigate your taxes. But beyond that, I wouldn't say this is something that like everyone should be doing all the time just because there's maybe a strategy out there because it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So there it is. 5-year-olds. I'm sure all the 5-year-olds are glued to their YouTube right now learning about this.
On the edge of their seat for sure.
Yeah. I did my best to explain like I'm 5.
That was good. I mean, from your post, I got the gist of it. It just, to me, honestly, didn't seem worth it. It seems like trying to gain another way to try and game the system. So for me, that's kind of what I took away from it. Just, keep
almost
it simple.
Always the more complex thing is worse for people. Almost always.
Yeah.
And as humans, we like to introduce complexity because it seems like you're making moves. It seems like you're doing stuff. And so if people who have a very simple strategy, while it's optimal and will do better than almost all investors, we have this like impulse, this urge to introduce complexity. And this is like a very fancy sounding type of complexity we could introduce, but it probably won't leave you better off. And so I say, hey, buy some index funds, leave them in your account, let them sit there for years. That's how you optimize your wealth.
Period. Thank you.